And Trump poses a real threat to the liberal establishment. He's not a Mitt Romney-type Republican. He has different views from the so-called uniparty on things like trade, on things like immigration, and things like foreign policy and war. Trump posed a major threat. That's why they took such extraordinary measures for the last 8 years to take this guy out. They weren't able to do it politically. They weren't even really able to do it at the ballot box. So what's left? The only thing left to do is to try to throw him in prison so that he can't campaign for the election. I agree, it's backfiring.
This is not a federal case, Michael. You know that. It's not even a federal case. Why do you think that it's not a DOJ case? It's not a Biden case. It's not a Merrick Garland thing. It's New York state law. So the idea that this is somehow politically motivated is all made up in your head, because what you do on your show every day is you groom your audience for fascism and you set them up for a complete takeover of the DOJ. This is all about allowing Trump to get away with any crime he wants, as you sort of slighted and
Francesca,
sort of, laid out very nonchalantly just a little bit ago. He was impeached twice. Doesn't really matter that he tried to blackmail the leader of Ukraine into digging up non-existent dirt on Joe Biden, but that doesn't matter to you
Joe
or
Biden
your
threatened
followers.
to withhold arms.
You want to make sure. You want to make
Francesca,
sure that when
you're
Trump is
accusing me
reelected,
of fascism.
he can get away.
That's a big,
he can get away
you're
with
accusing
getting
me of
rid of the
fascism. That's a
Department of
big charge.
Education.
All I would point out is that it's not my party that's imprisoning its political opponents right now. So if we're going to throw that accusation about it.
I was about to say one of the key tenets of fascism is you imprison your political opponents.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I got to tell you guys, this clip right here is a prime example of what happens when your brain is terminally on MSNBC, okay? All you know is what you heard on MSNBC. You haven't actually thought about the things that MSNBC is telling you or looked into these stories or really did the homework when it comes to formulating your opinion on a certain subject or situation. And clips like this is exactly what I'm talking about, featuring Kevin O'Leary, Mark Garagos, Michael Knowles, and progressive political activist Francesca Fiorentini. Now, Francesca is an individual that, in my opinion, represents, again, the average MSNBC viewer, okay? A person that is not very well informed. They don't really know what's going on. They just know what they heard Joy Reid say, what they heard Rachel Maddow say, and they just go with that, right? And she's going to try to take these MSNBC talking points to the Piers Morgan show on this panel of people who, again, seem to me to be very much more informed on politics than somebody like her, right? And actually are critical thinkers who all know that, hey, this is obviously a sham, right? Even if you are neutral, you should be able to see that what happened to Trump in that trial was a sham, okay? And this is part of the reason why I don't think it's going to hurt him that much, specifically with independence, as much as the mainstream liberal media wants it to hurt with independence, because I think anybody that critically thinks about this can see what's going on here, right? It's a political persecution. But unfortunately, there are a lot of brainwashed, woke revolutionaries, anti-Trumpers in this country, like Francesca Fiorentini here, who is going to get humiliated after being asked a simple question, just a simple question about what was the crime? What was the crime?
Yes, and it's pretty clear this is not a man who thinks that he has to be accountable to the American people. When you look at the federal charge against Trump, there was a poll that came out when that charge was brought that showed 62% of Americans think that it's primarily politically motivated. They just don't seem to care. And so this has been a ratcheting up, as we've all noted on the panel, of trends that have been built up for some years now. Some would say going back to Richard Nixon. But certainly in the early Trump campaign, the Democrats tried to stop him from being president by spying on him and cooking up fake intelligence, ironically enough, with Russia. And that didn't work. Then they tried to throw him out by impeaching him twice. That didn't work. Then they tried to kick him out by rigging the election and changing all the voter rules, in some cases in contravention of state constitutions leading up to that election. That did get him out of office, and he did leave office, but then he didn't go away. He kept running again. So then they indicted him 4 times. Now they've convicted him. They're going to threaten to throw him in prison. Pretty soon they're going to threaten to send him to St. Helena. But this has absolutely nothing to do with the law. As was noted earlier, at most you're talking about a misdemeanor that would have already expired under the statute of limitations. I'm not even convinced that there was really a misdemeanor that Trump committed. So my fellow panelist here is celebrating that the rule of law has been vindicated and overturned 234 years of American legal tradition. I would challenge her to see if she could possibly articulate how and what crime Trump committed, because so far Alvin Bragg, the DA, has failed to do so. The judge in the case, Judge Merchan, has failed to do so. And they can't do it because Trump didn't commit any of the crimes for which he's been convicted.
Well, let's just ask quickly before I go to Kevin. Francesca, just on that point, what crime did Trump commit?
It was financial crimes. It was white collar crimes. That is exactly what they charged him. He was convicted on.
What was the crime?
It's New York State law.
I understand. What was the crime?
It is
Francesca,
I don't even like it. It is
Well,
literally
hang on, Mark.
he just got convicted on 34 counts.
Francesca, what was the crime?
Of like cooking the actual books.
What was the crime?
You are not allowed. So you are not allowed to use your own financial, like your own money, to pay off somebody, and then he logged it as something different. He logged it as just a regular payment, but he was actually paying off this porn star to keep quiet, which, if he hadn't been running for president, would not have mattered, but he was, and so it impacted campaign finance laws in New York State. Okay, that is what Juan Merchan just oversaw this.
Okay.
Alvin Bragg brought these charges because Michael Cohen, his fixer, was already sentenced to 3 years to do it.
Okay, let's just go before Kevin. I'll be very, very, very patient. I will come to you.
Look, I'm no expert. Let me just say, hang on,
No,
Michael.
Francesca.
You are no expert.
By the
That's
way.
right. Because the campaign finance law is a federal law.
Hang on,
Anyway,
Francesca. I want to go to Mark. You're the lawyer. Is anything Francesca just said, is that actually the crime?
Look, let me just say, I like Francesca a lot, and we probably agree on 80% of our worldviews. However, Francesca, the way you just described it, call me afterwards and I'll educate you, because that's not what happened. There was no theory that was given to the jurors. The jurors were told it could have been campaign finance, it could have been tax, it could have been false books. They were told they didn't have to specify, and specifically told they did not have to agree unanimously. That's what irks me. Lifelong Democrat, no fan of Trump, never voted for Trump, never will. But I will tell you, as somebody who has spent his entire career with kind of taking on unpopular causes and holding the government accountable, I have to tell you, I do that for a reason. And the reason is this kind of shenanigans, and that's the best light I can spin it on in the criminal courts, has no place in a federal election.
No, I agree.
The campaign finance laws were federal, not state, and the state laws had nothing to do with it.
I want to go to Kevin.
Wow. This probably is one of the most powerful clips on the internet when it comes to this whole Trump hush money trial thing, right? 100%. This is probably the most powerful clip, because what this clip shows is exactly how the average MSNBC viewer thinks, what they actually really know. Because this woman, again, her brain on MSNBC, when asked what the crime is, she goes into a word salad. Well, he committed white-collar crimes, 34 counts. He cooked the books. He paid off an adult actress while cooking the books, right? She don't know. Nobody knows what it is, right? Because, again, the jurors didn't even have to know, right? They didn't have to know. They could say, well, he could have committed some crime as long as we agree that he falsified business records with the intent of committing another crime. We don't have to define what that crime is, okay? Even though, again, falsifying business records is a misdemeanor, is only a felony if he commits another crime. And essentially what Alvin Bragg is basically saying here is that, well, hey, we're going to try to charge a guy with a felony for ultimately breaking a federal law, okay, or committing a federal crime, even though I'm a state prosecutor. We don't have jurisdiction to determine whether or not Trump actually broke that law. But if we can just convince the jury that, hey, you know, he might have broke this law, that law, okay, when he cooked his books, you know, hey, this is how we're going to proceed forward with this, right? But again, you got to understand the FEC, who is supposed to handle this stuff, okay, who are supposed to be the ones to determine whether or not Trump actually broke the law, they didn't have a case. They already basically kind of determined, well, no wrongdoing here, right? We're not going to bring a case. But again, Alvin Bragg created this, okay? He essentially, resurrected this case from the dead, which is why they call it a zombie case, in order to go out the political opponent, and it's obvious. Now, again, when you ask one of these people who, again, they watch liberal media, they watch CNN, they watch MSNBC, NBC, ABC, okay, all these, anti-Trump networks, you ask them, okay, well, what crime did Trump commit? Since they want to run around, talk about convicted felon, they don't even know what crime he committed. She can't even define the crime that he committed. It's very telling. It really is. But again, I'm telling you, there are a large amount of people in this country, unfortunately, that are just like her. Okay? Who, again, they don't know what he did wrong. They just know, oh, well, he was a convicted felon, right? He was convicted, so therefore it must be legit, right? Even though we've never seen something like this before, ever, right? We've never seen this before. And they all admit that, hey, this would not have happened if it wasn't in New York City. This is the only place in the country that this could actually happen. But I'm hoping and I'm praying that there are people like this guy right here, Mark Garagos, who's an anti-Trumper, right? He's a never-Trumper, actually. He's a defense lawyer, but at the very least, he can see that this is political, right? He can see that, hey, this is wrong, even though he's not a fan of Trump. Admit it, I don't like Trump. Okay, this guy says he agrees with her on 80% of views, which means he's probably far leftist, okay? Or somewhere close to that, okay? He's definitely not conservative if he agrees with this woman 80%. And even this guy is like, yeah, that you just don't know what you're talking about, right? That's just incorrect. Like you don't know what the crime is, right? Nobody knows what the crime is because it could have been multiple crimes that are actually a felony, right? The actual felony, okay? The reason why it's a felony, again, nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody can define what the crime is. But again, people like her, armed with MSNBC talking points, as soon as confronted with just a very basic question, okay, what was the crime? What did he do? Right? Again, that's what happens. That's what happens. And that's why I say, look, over the next few weeks or so, we really can't determine exactly what the impact will be, okay, until, again, we have, some more time to let it, settle in, for people to actually educate themselves. Like, there is a learning curve. I personally believe the more people that educate themselves on this trial, that actually start paying attention to why Trump was found guilty, are going to realize, oh, this is BS, right? This is nonsense, okay? Any person that is a critical thinker is going to see that, okay, yeah, this is garbage, right? This is all political, okay? And I think clips like this are exactly what I'm talking about. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.